Most gardeners think rice water is rice water. Now here's the part almost nobody talks about. If you use the wrong version the wrong way, you can actually suffocate your roots, trigger fungal outbreaks, and create sour anaerobic soil conditions that slowly weaken your plants from underneath. And yet fertilizer companies rarely mention any of this. A 2021 agricultural microbiology study found that fermented carbohydrate-rich plant solutions dramatically increased microbial respiration and nutrient cycling inside depleted soils. In plain English, certain natural starch compounds can wake up soil ecosystems that have essentially gone dormant. The science sounds modern, but traditional growers figured this out generations ago. Across parts of Asia, farmers quietly reused leftover rice water after cooking and soaking rice, especially during difficult growing seasons when crops looked weak and tired. Not because rice itself was loaded with nutrients, but because rice starch became food for microbial life once water, heat, and fermentation entered the equation. And this is where things start separating into two completely different methods. Raw rice water behaves one way. Cooked rice water behaves another. When raw uncooked rice sits in water, the liquid absorbs trace minerals, amino acids, B vitamins, phosphorus compounds, and light starch particles. The result is a relatively gentle microbial stimulant that slowly feeds beneficial organisms already living inside your soil. But cooked rice water changes the chemistry entirely. Heat breaks down complex starch chains into simpler carbohydrates that bacteria can consume almost immediately. Think of raw rice water like dry firewood stacked beside a fireplace. Cooked rice water is lighter fluid. And once fermentation begins, the entire process accelerates. Beneficial microbes like lactobacillus begin multiplying rapidly inside the solution. These bacteria help suppress harmful pathogens, improve nutrient availability, and unlock minerals trapped inside compacted or depleted soil. That's one reason gardeners often report darker leaves, explosive root growth, and sudden bursts of vegetative recovery after using fermented rice solutions consistently. But here's the problem. Most people completely overdo it, especially with cooked rice water. That sour smell people notice after leaving cooked rice water too long? That's intense microbial activity. In small amounts, it can dramatically improve soil biology. But in excessive amounts, those same microbes can temporarily consume too much oxygen around plant roots. And roots without oxygen begin struggling fast. This is why some gardeners accidentally create soggy, sour soil that attracts fungus gnats and mold instead of healthy growth. So if you want to test this correctly, the setup matters. Start with two similar plants if possible. Same species. Similar size. Similar lighting conditions. For the raw rice method, place 1 cup, roughly 200 grams of uncooked rice into 4 cups, or about 1 liter, of non-chlorinated water. Filtered water or rainwater works best. Let the rice soak for 24 hours at room temperature. Stir it once or twice during the process. Then strain the liquid. That's your raw rice water concentrate. Now for the cooked rice method. Boil the same amount of rice in excess water. Once the rice finishes cooking, collect the cloudy leftover water before draining it away. Most people throw this part out without realizing it contains concentrated broken-down starch compounds. Allow the liquid to cool completely. Then let it sit for another 24 hours so mild fermentation can begin. Now here's where most gardeners unknowingly damage their plants. They apply it full strength. Never do that. Both raw and cooked rice water should be diluted before touching your soil. The safest ratio is simple. 1 part rice water, 10 parts plain water. That means if you have 100 milliliters of rice solution, mix it with 1 liter of regular water before application. Apply it directly around the base of the plant once every 7 to 10 days. Not on the leaves. Into the soil itself. And now the comparison becomes fascinating. Plants treated with raw rice water often develop slower but steadier improvements. Soil texture gradually loosens. Moisture retention improves. Earthworm activity tends to increase over time. Leaf color becomes more consistent and stable. But cooked rice water usually creates faster visible reactions. Sometimes dramatically faster. Within just a few days, many gardeners notice accelerated microbial activity, deeper green coloration, faster shoot development, and stronger vegetative growth. And the reason comes down to microbial feeding speed. Cooked starches are easier for bacteria to digest, which means microbial colonies expand faster. And when those microbial populations explode, they begin unlocking nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and micronutrients already trapped inside the soil itself. In other words, the rice water is not simply feeding the plant. It's activating the underground workforce already living beneath it. But again, balance matters. Too much cooked rice water can create anaerobic pockets in poorly drained containers. It can attract fungus gnats. It can encourage mold growth. And in extreme cases, overloaded microbial activity may temporarily stress delicate roots. Raw rice water is slower, but also more forgiving, which is why experienced growers often use both strategically instead of choosing only one. Raw rice water for long-term soil rebuilding. Cooked rice water for aggressive short-term recovery and rapid vegetative growth. And this is usually where gardeners start noticing the real transformation. Within the first 2 weeks, leaves often appear greener and more hydrated. Soil tends to retain moisture more evenly. Weak plants frequently begin pushing new growth. By week 3 or 4, root systems usually become thicker and more fibrous during repotting. Vegetable plants often flower earlier. Herbs regain stronger leaf production. Some growers even report noticeably faster recovery after transplant shock. Now, whether every plant responds identically is another question entirely, because soil biology is never identical from one garden to another, which is exactly why this next part matters. Don't just watch this video and forget about it. Test it yourself. Use raw rice water on one plant. Cooked rice water on another identical plant. Take photos today. Then compare both plants again after 14 days. You may be shocked by how different the underground reactions become once microbes, starch, and fermentation start working together. And when you do the experiment, come back and post your results in the comments below. The community wants to know which method produced the strongest growth in real-world conditions.